Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be the final video in the TI-10 meta tier list, and we're obviously going to be doing Position 5, Hard Support, and it's the same as always. I'm looking at the picks, the bans, the win rates, all of those kinds of things. I'm, valuing the main stage and the grand finals and all of that kind of stuff more than I'm valuing the group stage, but I will say the 5-position support, I think, was a little bit more even. It just was not as top heavy as maybe mid or 4 position. So it's a little bit spread out. It's more spread out when you get into the lower or middle tiers, but we do have some clear and obvious winners. And so that's in S tier. We have Io, we have Bane. These two heroes are the clear and obvious front runners, the clear and obvious winners, I think, for S tier. We have Io, which was the 5th most picked hero in the in TI-10. We have Bane, which is only the 17th most picked. Is actually picked a little bit less than Disruptor. So Disruptor was the 15th most picked. But I just think that these two heroes are the S tier heroes. Even though Io, we saw, at the end in the grand finals, it just kind of wasn't as good. So that's why I don't put Io in its own category as S, even though maybe I would have if it just if it crushed in the grand finals, it may have been the far and away obvious winner. But then, because of that, I put it in this S tier with Bane. I think Bane, it just countered so many things that Io did. It was just so good. But then the other thing is I also have Disruptor and Snapfire. And you might be wondering, why am I not talking about Disruptor and Snapfire? Well, I think that Io and Bane were like the clear and obvious winners. They were the ones that everyone was picking. They were the ones that had this OP play style from 5 position. But the reason why I think I'm including, or the reason why I'm not talking about Disruptor and Snapfire as much, and the reason why I am including them in this S tier is because, and why I think they're S tier, is because Disruptor was picked, like I said, more than Bane. Snapfire was actually picked more than Io. I think the big thing, though, is that Snapfire, it was able to be flexed to 4 position, even though it is a 5 position hero a lot. And Disruptor, it just wasn't a hero, despite its popularity, that was all that hotly contested in terms of bans. So Disruptor only had 14 bans coming out for it in the entirety of the tournament and 39 picks. So if you did a total pick and ban rate, it was actually a lot lower. But I think because it was picked more than Bane, and because it was such a good hero, the catch that it offered, the ult is just so good, and obviously the buff to the Q that it has now, I think these heroes are just clearly the far and away winners. If anything, Snapfire might actually be the number 1. It's just the fact that Snap was flexed and has been flexed to other positions and only had a 45% win rate. So I just think that all of these heroes, they're just the top 5 positions, even if they can play other roles, even if they can go to 4, they're just clearly and obviously the best ones right now in this patch and for TI. And next we're going to move on to the A tier. And the A tier, it's a similar kind of division where we have Silencer, we have Ogre. These were pretty popular heroes, these two heroes. Silencer wasn't as good as he otherwise would have been if he didn't get all of the nerfs leading up to TI. I think he would have been more popular, probably an S tier hero. But he still was picked 26 times. He was still banned actually 26 times as well. And he had a 50% win rate. So he was still relatively popular. I just think he wasn't as popular, going into the later stages of the main stage. So, but I'm not going to punish him too much for that and put him down lower. And then Ogre, kind of a brain dead hero, pretty easy. But I think because this patch and this TI was all about buffing up your Ursa, buffing up your Undying, buffing up your Tiny, your Monkey King, all of those kinds of things, just buffing up your carry to this point where they just cannot die and they just kill everything. I think that's why Ogre was picked a lot, and clearly it shows in the stats. He was, pretty hotly contested. He was a pretty good 5-position support. Even though you wouldn't expect him to be all that popular in the pros, he was pretty popular. He was picked a decent amount. And then the next two I put up here, Lyon and Elder Titan. And technically, these two heroes were better than Ogre. They were better than Silencer. They kind of were, again, above these two heroes. They were far and away, S tier heroes in general, or close to that, maybe in Lyon's case, not an S tier hero, but close. It's just that they were flexed to other positions. They can play 5. They did play some 5, but they just weren't an only 5 hero. In fact, they were more of a 4 position. So that's why I don't put them in the S tier. That's why I don't put them up there, because I put them as a as a 5 position. I just think they're A. They just were more of a 4 position. You need that Blink Dagger on Line. You kind of want that that Ags on Elder Titan. So even though, he has been played in 5 position, it just doesn't feel as good. It's just a little bit underwhelming because you don't get that farm that you need to make the hero really, really good like it should be. So that's why they're in A tier. And next we're moving down to B tier. We have Undying, had some really clutch, good games in the grand finals. I think that's why he's up here. He also was picked and banned a decent bit, nothing special. Enchantress, again, Puppy played this hero to great effect, and we saw this hero, a lot of people weren't picking it, but we saw him dominate with it and counter a lot of key strategies with it in the upper bracket. So that's why I think it's up here in this B tier. Even though it wasn't the best all around, I think it did have times where it was shining and it was being played really effectively, and we saw that with Puppy. And then we have Ancient Apparition, Treant Protector, and Winter Wyvern. These are just kind of stable 5 positions. They weren't picked a ton. They were picked sometimes, and they had okay, involvement, or they were contested sometimes, occasionally with some picks, some bans. Just not that great. But I think Undying and Enchantress are far away the better ones in this tier, but these heroes were picked a decent amount. They did have an okay win rate, and they did play a good bit. I mean, Winter Wyvern, you saw some great curses come out. It was valued a lot because, you curse a target that's next to Tiny or something. It just, Tiny blows up that hero. So these heroes were hotly contested. Occasionally, it's just they fell off sometimes in the later portion of the main stage. So that's why I'm not putting them a little bit higher than that. And they really didn't have all that many picks. I mean, Winter Wyvern was only picked 18 times. So that's why I'm just not putting something like Winter Wyvern up there. Even though it had a 72% win rate, it was very good. It just wasn't picked all that often. I maybe could put Winter Wyvern up in A tier just because of its pick or its win percentage, but like I said, it just wasn't contested that much. Then lastly, we have C, D, and F tier. I feel like all the time these heroes they're pretty bad. They all are kind of the same. It's just they're separated by a little bit. C tier, was just picked a little bit more, had some wins under its belt, was contested sometimes if you needed a support that did something, but just wasn't that great. Abaddon still has a save. Shadow Demon locked people down sometimes, but, just these, and Vengeful Spirit could, swap people in and out. It just wasn't as good as people maybe thought it was going to be heading into TI, and so they kind of fell off and weren't as great. Only picked and banned a few times and didn't have that great of a win percentage either. And then D tier, all of these heroes were picked sometimes, a few games. We saw Chen only played twice, but was undefeated. So there is that. That's why I don't put Chen in D tier, because at least it was picked and it didn't lose a single game, which is interesting. But obviously didn't even get to 5 games and was only banned like 3 times. And then Grimstroke, same kind of thing. Picked a couple times. 1 and 2 went, with the record, went 1 and 2. Witch Doctor only picked a couple times. Oracle, same thing. Jakiro, same thing. And I put Dawnbreaker here because Dawnbreaker was picked like as carry, some as offlane. I think there was occasionally like a 5 position in there once or twice. Just didn't play that much. And then F tier, all of these heroes were just never picked pretty much at all. Or if they were, it was maybe only once and they lost. Keeper of the Light picked once and lost. Omni Knight picked once and lost. Warlock, same thing, picked once and lost. All these heroes just... they either got nerfed for one reason or another. Oh yeah, Dazzle as well, also picked once and lost. So it's just the nature of the patch. I think, Keep the Light was good. Dazzle kept getting buffs, but same thing with Warlock, kept getting buffs, but they just never were able to really get to the point where they could be relevant in this patch. And then, like I said, Keeper of the Light and Omni Knight, they were pretty good a few patches ago, but then in the subsequent patches, A or like the B, C, D, whatever patches, they just got nerfed a ton. So they're just completely out of the meta now and just weren't able to be picked. So you kind of saw that come to fruition when they only were picked like once or twice and then, didn't even win at all. So that's pretty much the 5 position. I think it's obvious which ones were the best up here. Then we have the second tier with some ones that were a little bit of a 4 position, 5 position swap. Then the B tier, I think, which had some heroes that really came to shine at certain times. Maybe Winter Wyvern could have been a little bit higher up. Maybe if I did want to do something, I'd probably put Winter Wyvern up here just because it did have such a good win percentage. And then just like AA and Treant, they had their time to shine, but they just weren't that relevant. And then Enchantress, Undying, they picked sometimes, not that great, but when they were used effectively, they were really good. And then the rest of the heroes just picked occasionally, but, just didn't have the greatest showing. So I think, again, it was a little bit top heavy, but a little bit more even throughout. And this is clearly and obviously the 5 position tier list, the 5 position TI10 meta. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree or you think anything should be changed out. Maybe you think like Io and Bane or, Io Disruptor or Io Snapfire or something like that should have their own tier, or maybe, we should mix up the S tier, kind of divide it a little bit there. I'd probably be able to agree with you if you wanted to, pick one of these heroes that was far and away better. I just think Io was really good, but it just showed in the grand finals that it wasn't what we thought it was the whole tournament, because it lost LGD those 2 games. So that is my 5-position tier list for the TI-10 meta, and that's the last video in the TI-10 meta. I hope you guys enjoyed all those videos, and obviously like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Let me know what you think about this video or any of the other ones, if you think the meta was a little bit different than what I saw from the statistics, but that's what I think. Those are my summaries of TI-10's meta. I think it was super exciting, a great TI, really excited that we got to watch all of those great games of Dota, and excited to see the future patches and what they'll change in the future here with Dota, because usually there's a pretty big patch in the fall or winter. So excited to see the future of Dota. It's really awesome. As always, guys, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Join the Discord if you haven't. Request a replay review. Go to my Patreon if you want coaching. Go to my Twitch. I have Twitch streams probably every Friday. I'll be doing more Twitch streams in the future, maybe just general ones or whatever, and obviously to do replay reviews. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.